The council chamber floated at the very heart of the galaxy, a fortress of crystal and light. From the outside, it looked like a shining star wrapped in rings of gold. Inside, the chamber was filled with voices, soft at first, then rising like waves in a storm. Representatives from 1,000 worlds had gathered. Some were tall and scaled, others small and covered in fur. Some had faces like stone, while others shimmered like water. They were different in form, but all carried the same thing in their voices: fear. They were not afraid of the warlords who fought across the spiral arms. They were not afraid of the great beasts that swam between the stars. No. Their fear had a single name: Earth. For years, the Council had ignored the small blue planet on the edge of a quiet arm of the Milky Way. It was young, almost too young to matter. Its people had only just begun to step into space. Their machines were fragile, their colonies few. By every law of the galaxy, Earth should have been weak. But Earth was not weak. Its people were different. They fought not only with weapons, but with will. They rose after every fall, stronger than before. They built cities where there was only ash. They sang songs even in chains. They dreamed of stars even while crawling in the dust. And the galaxy noticed. The first reports came from traders who passed too close to Sul. They spoke of humans who welcomed strangers with smiles but also looked at the stars with hungry eyes. Then came the soldiers who whispered of battles where humans fought like creatures twice their size, never surrendering even when defeat was certain. The Council dismissed these stories at first. But when the stories grew into warnings, the whispers began. "Why do they rise so fast?" one delegate asked, her voice sharp as ice. "They are young," another replied. "Yet their wars burn brighter than empires older than time." "Perhaps they are nothing," a third said, though his scales trembled. "Perhaps we see ghosts where there are none." But none of them believed it. Not truly. For every world had a true name, a secret name that held its destiny. Names were not given. They were discovered, hidden in the oldest records, carried through the oldest songs of the stars. The Council believed that by knowing a world's true name, they could understand it, control it, predict its path. And so, the whispers became a command. The archivists were sent to search. They would dig into ruins older than suns, read the memories etched into stone, and find the true name of Earth. It should have been a simple task. But it was not. Every time the archivists reached for the truth, they felt resistance, as if the name itself was hidden, covered by shadows, buried under centuries of silence. No world had ever fought to keep its name secret. No world, until Earth. The Council grew restless. Some argued to destroy Earth before the name was found. Others warned that striking too soon would wake a fire they did not understand. Still, the search continued. The chamber that once rang with debate now sat in uneasy silence. The delegates watched the archivists, waiting for the answer. At the heart of the chamber, the stars shimmered through the glass walls. To most, the stars brought comfort. But tonight they brought only dread. For somewhere in that endless sky, Earth waited. Small, fragile, and silent. Yet the Council felt its presence as if the little world was staring back. And though no one spoke it aloud, the same thought haunted every heart. What would they find when Earth's true name was revealed? The Council had spoken. The archivists would search for Earth's true name. The archivists were not ordinary scholars. They were keepers of memory, trained to read signs older than empires, older than stars themselves. Some could touch a stone and see what it had witnessed. Others could hear forgotten voices hidden in dust. Together they carried the burden of truth. They began their work far from Earth. The first records came from wandering machines that had drifted through the void for thousands of years. Some were cracked and broken, others almost turned to dust. Still within their metal hearts lay fragments of data, songs, maps, and strange human voices. The archivists listened. They heard laughter, sorrow, arguments, and dreams. One voice spoke of peace. Another voice spoke of war, One sang about love under the sun, while another shouted for freedom in the night. The archivists shivered. Even in broken signals, humanity's spirit was fierce and alive. "This world carries too many faces," said the Kalari archivist, his skin glowing with unease. "It is like fire. It warms, but it burns." The council urged them to dig deeper. So the archivists turned to ruins left by civilizations long gone. On a forgotten moon near the galactic rim, they uncovered carvings left by a people who had vanished millions of years before. The carvings spoke of a blue seed that would one day awaken and walk among the stars. The archivists grew quiet. Was this blue seed Earth? They searched further, finding whispers in relics, old transmissions, caught in the fabric of space and memories etched into dead worlds. Again and again the signs pointed to the same place. A small blue planet, rich with storms, oceans, and iron will. But each time they came close to uncovering the truth, shadows seemed to rise. Records cut off. Stones crumbled. Machines went silent. It was as if something ancient did not want Earth's name spoken. The senior archivist, a being older than most stars in the chamber, pressed his hands against a crystal memory core. His body trembled. He saw visions of humans standing on battlefields, their faces lit with fire. He saw mothers holding children in ruined cities. He saw explorers planting flags on worlds where no life had ever breathed before. He fell to his knees. "This species," he whispered, voice breaking, "is too heavy for the stars. Their steps shake even the past." The council grew uneasy. They argued louder this time. "Perhaps we should end the search," said one. "Names are not always safe." "No," another snapped. "If we stop now, they will rise without us, knowing. We must know." "And if the name is a curse?" asked a third. His scaled hands trembled. "If speaking it wakes what sleeps." But the council would not stop. Curiosity was stronger than fear. And so the archivists pressed forward, even as dread grew in their hearts. They knew the truth was close. They could almost feel the weight of the name pressing against them, waiting to be spoken. Outside the council chamber, the stars shone quietly. They had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. They had seen empires built, burned, and forgotten. Yet even the stars seemed to hold their breath now, watching the small blue planet that had captured the council's attention. Earth itself knew nothing of this search. Humanity lived its life, working, fighting, dreaming, unaware that the galaxy's greatest powers were trying to uncover its destiny. But deep within the silence of the cosmos, the truth waited. Earth's true name had been hidden for ages, buried by hands unknown. And soon it would be uncovered. What the council did not yet understand was simple. Some names, once spoken, could never be forgotten. And Earth's name was almost ready to rise. The archivists worked without rest. They had touched ruins, listened to broken signals, and searched the quiet corners of space. But now their search turned toward humanity itself. They began to study the history of Earth. Not the stories humans told in the present, but the echoes of what they had been. The first echoes came from war. The archivists listened to records of battles where humans fought against impossible odds. They saw soldiers holding their ground when defeat was certain. They saw rebels rising after empires crushed them. Again and again, humanity refused to surrender. "This is not natural," whispered one archivist, her form glowing faintly with fear. "Most young species bow to power, but these, they defy it." The second echoes came from sorrow. The archivists saw humans walking through ruins, carrying children, rebuilding homes from rubble. They saw them cry but still take the next step forward. Pain did not stop them. Pain only carved them deeper, giving them strength where there should have been only despair. The third echoes came from dreams. Humans wrote poems about the stars before they even touched space. They painted pictures of worlds they had never seen. They sang songs of journeys their feet could not yet take. Their imagination stretched far beyond their reach, yet somehow, they always caught up to it. The council grew restless as these reports were read aloud. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably, their skin rippling with unease. Others leaned forward, eyes wide, hearts filled with something they did not want to admit: admiration. But admiration quickly turned to fear. For no matter where the archivists looked, one truth remained: humanity's spirit was not fragile. It was stubborn. It was unbreakable. On one ruined data crystal, the archivists found the voice of a human leader. His words were old, spoken during one of Earth's darkest wars. His voice trembled with pain but also carried fire. "We will fight on," the voice declared. "We will fight in the fields, in the cities, on the seas, and in the skies. We will never surrender." The chamber fell silent. Even though the words came from a species still young, the fire in them felt ancient. One counselor broke the silence. "What kind of world gives birth to such voices?" No one answered. The archivists moved to their final set of echoes, moments of kindness. They saw humans who risked their lives for strangers, who gave food to the hungry even when they had little for themselves, who offered peace when war would have been easier. This balance confused the archivists most of all. How could one species hold so much rage and so much mercy in the same heart? How could they burn like fire and yet heal like water? The senior archivist finally spoke. "Perhaps this is why their name is hidden. They are too many things at once. Too vast, too wild. Perhaps their name carries all these faces." The council grew cold. They had wanted to know Earth's true name, to control it, to predict it, to make it safe. But the more they learned, the more they realized that control might be impossible. The delegates looked at the stars shining through the crystal walls of the chamber. Somewhere out there, Earth was still small, still quiet, still unaware that its history was being unwrapped. Yet even in silence, it cast a shadow across the galaxy. And the archivists knew they were close. The echoes were leading to something greater. Behind every voice, every war, every dream, there was a single thread pulling them toward the truth. Earth's true name was almost within reach. And when it was spoken, none of them would remain unchanged. The chamber of the council was darker than usual. Stars glimmered faintly through the crystal walls, but the air inside felt heavy, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The archivists stood at the center. Their work was finished. They had searched ruins, listened to the oldest voices, and gathered the last fragments of truth. All the signs pointed to one place, one people, one destiny. The delegates leaned forward. Some clutched their robes. Others coiled their tails nervously. The question hung in the air like thunder waiting to break. What is Earth's true name? For a moment, the archivists did not answer. They looked at each other with unease, as if speaking the word might bring a storm upon them all. Then the senior archivist, his face pale and trembling, raised the crystal tablet in his hands. The word shone across the chamber, bright as fire, sharp as steel. Terra. The sound rolled through the hall, echoing against the crystal walls. It was not just a word. It was a force. The delegates felt it in their bones, as if the syllables had wait, as if the stars themselves remembered it. Whispers broke out. Then gasps. Then silence again. One delegate, her body covered in silver feathers, stood in fear. "I have heard this name before," she whispered. "Not in my life, but in the stories of my ancestors. It was spoken in ruins, carved into dying worlds. Terra was not a place. It was a storm." Another delegate hissed, his scales rippling. "Impossible. This is only Earth. They are too young, too small, too fragile." But deep down, none of them believed that anymore. The name Terra carried a weight older than the council itself. It was a name that had drifted through forgotten empires, carried by the last survivors of worlds broken and burned. To some, it meant conquest. To others, survival. But to all, it meant power. The senior archivist spoke again, voice shaking. "The humans call their world Earth, but that is not what the stars remember. The stars call it Terra, and Terra is not only a name, it is a warning." The chamber filled with dread, For if Earth was Terra, then humanity was not a new flame. They were an old fire, hidden, waiting to rise again. The counselors began to argue, fear sharpening their voices. "We must contain them now before Terra awakens," cried one. "No," said another, her eyes wide with terror. "Strike them, and they will become what we fear most. The name alone proves it. They are survivors. They will endure any wound we give." "Then what choice do we have?" shouted a third. "If we wait, the storm will grow. If we act, the storm will break upon us. We are trapped either way." The arguments rose higher, but none could silence the echo of the word that still hung in the air. Terra, Terra, Terra. Even those who had never seen Earth now felt its presence. That small blue planet, spinning quietly in the Milky Way, no longer seemed small. It loomed in their thoughts like a giant, its people carrying a destiny, too vast to control. The delegates trembled in their seats. Some lowered their heads in despair. Others stared at the stars with hard, unblinking eyes. But in every heart, the same fear bloomed. The galaxy was not ready for Terra. And yet, Terra was already here. The word had been spoken. Terra. It left the council chamber and spread like fire through dry grass. No wall could hold it, no silence could bury it. Across the spiral arms, the name flew faster than light, whispered by traitors, shouted by soldiers, and carved in secret reports. At first, many did not believe it. How could the quiet world of Earth carry such a name? But belief did not matter. The sound of Terra was enough to wake old fears sleeping in the bones of ancient races. On the world of Vathar, generals ordered fleets to shift toward the outer arm. On the gas cities of Naloon, merchants began hoarding supplies, preparing for storms they could not see. Even in the cold caves of the Sharon, where fear was rare, children whispered the name at night and asked their parents if the sky would soon fall. Everywhere, the reaction was the same. Borders closed. Armies moved. Eyes turned toward Earth. The humans themselves did not know. They went on with their lives, building machines, sending out signals, dreaming of stars. They did not see how their name had already shaken the galaxy. They did not yet feel the shadow that had risen around them. In the council, panic grew worse. "We should destroy them now," cried a counselor whose people once lost their empire to a force that bore a name almost as heavy. "If Terra rises, we will all burn." "No," answered another, her voice low and shaking. "Every time we have struck too soon, we have made enemies stronger. If we strike Terra, we will awaken what we fear." The chamber fell into bitter arguments. Some wanted war, some wanted silence, but none could deny the truth. The galaxy had already changed. The archivists, who had uncovered the name, sat apart. Their faces were pale, their voices quiet. They felt the weight of what they had unleashed. "The name is alive now," one of them whispered. "Even if we hide it, the stars will remember. Terra has been spoken. Terra has returned." The delegates shivered. The word felt less like history and more like destiny. And beyond the council, the fear spread deeper. In hidden archives of old empires, records began to stir. Historians uncovered carvings that spoke of the children of Terra. They were not myths, they were memories. Worlds once destroyed carried ruins marked with warnings. "Beware the ones who rise from Terra, for they will endure." Every race that read those words understood. Humanity was not just another young species reaching for the stars. They were a storm wrapped in flesh, a fire walking on two legs, a memory that refused to die. The galaxy began to change. Treaties that had lasted for centuries were broken overnight. Fleets that once stood together now turned on one another, each power preparing for the day Terra would rise. No one trusted their neighbors. No one wanted to be the first to fall. And in this fear, a silence grew, a silence heavier than war. It was the silence of waiting, for Terra to wake, for humanity to take its first true step into the galaxy. On Earth, humanity still dreamed. Their scientists sent probes into the dark. Their explorers looked toward the moon, toward Mars, toward the distant stars. They believed they were alone in their journey. They did not know that thousands of eyes already watched them. Trembling, the council had wanted control. They had wanted safety. But in uncovering Earth's name, they had given birth to something they could no longer stop. For the galaxy now knew that Terra had returned. And fear walked beside every star. The fear of Terra spread across the galaxy. But on Earth, life went on. The people of the blue world worked, fought, loved, and dreamed, unaware of the storm gathering beyond their skies. But secrets do not stay hidden forever. One night, Earth's great antennas caught a signal. It was not from a nearby star, not from a wandering probe, but from the deep dark of the galaxy. At first, scientists thought it was a mistake. Yet as the signal was decoded, its meaning grew clear. Humanity was being spoken of, watched, feared. And then they saw it. The word, Terra. The leaders of Earth were stunned. The scholars argued. The soldiers listened in silence. How could the galaxy already know them? How could strangers fear people who had only just learned to walk among the stars? At first there was disbelief. Some said it was a trick, a lie made to confuse them. Others felt pride, their chests swelling with the thought that humanity's name carried weight beyond Earth. But slowly, the truth spread through every corner of the world. The galaxy feared them. The people of Earth looked at one another differently after that. For centuries they had seen themselves as small, divided, fragile. Nations argued, wars scarred the land. But now, for the first time, they saw themselves, not as many, but as one. They were not only Earth, they were Terra. And Terra was something greater. In quiet rooms, leaders spoke to one another in hushed voices. Old enemies sat at the same table, their eyes wary, but their purpose shared. They knew the galaxy would not give them peace. They knew fear would turn into action. If humanity did not rise together, they would fall apart. On the streets, ordinary people felt it too. They began to dream not just of their own nations, but of something larger. Soldiers trained not for borders, but for stars. Scientists worked harder, their eyes shining with determination. Explorers gazed at the night sky with fire in their hearts. For the first time in history, humanity felt united by something more powerful than fear, destiny. Yet not all hearts were calm. Many asked the same question: why? Why did the galaxy tremble at their name? What had humanity done to earn this weight? The answers came slowly, whispered by the archivists' reports that leaked into human networks. They read of civilizations long gone, of ruins marked with warnings, of the word Terra carved into stone on worlds they had never touched. Humanity was not just rising, it was returning. The idea was terrifying, yet also intoxicating. Could it be true? Were they part of a story older than themselves? The galaxy thought so. And in that belief, humanity found its strength. No longer would they walk as children of Earth. They would rise as heirs of Terra, builders, survivors, dreamers, fighters, all faces in one. The council, watching from afar, felt their fear grow. The humans were no longer blind. They now knew the galaxy was watching. They now knew their name carried the weight of legend. And instead of cowering, humanity straightened its back. In every human voice, in every human step, there was a new note of defiance. They would not be controlled. They would not be silenced. The age of Earth was ending. The age of Terra was beginning. And the stars, whether they wished it or not, would have to face it. The galaxy had changed. The moment Earth's true name was spoken, nothing was the same again. The council tried to control the fear, but fear had no chains. It moved faster than light, filling every world, every fleet, every throne. And now humanity knew. On Earth, the people no longer walked with small steps. They built faster. They dreamed bigger. The word Terra was spoken on every continent, in every language, carrying a weight that made hearts rise. What was once only a planet was now a promise. Ships were launched with new purpose. They were no Longer, fragile scouts, but the first seeds of something greater. On the moon, humans carved the word Terra into the dust. On Mars, they built fires and said, "We are not alone. We are not afraid." The council watched with trembling hearts. Every delegate felt the same question press upon them. What will humanity do now? Some prayed that Terra would be merciful. Others prepared for war. Armadas gathered at borders, but none dared move first. For even though Earth was still small, still young, the fear of what they could become was heavier than any fleet. And in the silence, the stars themselves seemed to remember. Old ruins stirred with meaning. Forgotten carvings glowed faintly, as if the echo of Terra's name had woken them. In the empty halls of dead civilizations, the word whispered through stone. They have returned. The archivists who had spoken the name could no longer sleep. They dreamed of humans standing against storms, of voices rising after silence, of banners planted on strange and broken worlds. In every dream, the humans endured. In every dream, Terra stood tall. One archivist, shaking with both fear and awe, said to the council, "We wanted to know their fate. Now we do. They are not the children of Earth. They are the children of trial, of fire, of survival. They are Terra, and Terra does not fall." The chamber went quiet. None could argue. Meanwhile, humanity stepped forward into the unknown. They did not yet have fleets that filled the stars. They did not yet carry weapons to shatter worlds. But they carried something greater. The certainty that they were part of a story larger than themselves. Every human heart beat with the same truth. The galaxy feared them, and fear meant respect. Fear meant they mattered. In the darkness of space, their small ships glowed like sparks. And sparks, if not stopped, could become wildfires. The galaxy held its breath. Empires paused their rivalries. Warlords delayed their invasions. Even the most ancient species watched the humans with uneasy silence. All waited to see what Terra would do. And humanity, for the first time, looked back at the galaxy not as children looking at giants, but as equals staring into the eyes of destiny. The Council had uncovered the truth to control Earth. Instead, they had woken it. Instead, they had reminded the stars of a name that should never have been forgotten. When the Council learned Earth's true name, terror swept the stars. But terror was not the end. It was the beginning. For the age of Earth had ended. The age of Terra had begun. And the stars, whether they wished it or not, would remember.